everybody. Welcome to Talk to Me Tuesday. I'm your host, Tajah, the Mindset Coach. Tonight, we're talking about forget the plan. I know that makes you curious, right? Well, I have two lovely guests here. They're going to help me talk about why it's important to forget the plan. So, Tina, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Tajah, for allowing me to be here tonight on your show to talk about Forget the Plan. I am in Toledo, Ohio, and I'm glad to be here to share some of my successes, failures, and just how to continue to navigate in life despite, plans not going the way that they should.
Right. How about you, ZURI?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Tajah. I'm ZURI. I'm currently in Delaware, but originally from New Jersey. And yeah, I'm basically here to speak about how do you keep just pushing forward and navigating through life. And, when stuff hits you, keep going. So
Exactly, because I know we all have had, ups and downs, and that's the thing about life, right? We're all on this journey together, and we don't know what's the right way, what's the wrong way, but you got to keep moving, right? So you don't get caught with, looking crazy. You just got to keep going. So I know when people hear forget the plan, they're like, wait a minute, what do you mean? We always need a plan. Because when we grow up, right, we hear that phrase that our parents say, like, oh, there's a man with a plan, right? He's on this move. But why do you think they focus so much on the plan?
I don't know. I think we're just raised to think that way. And like realistically, that's not what it is. Because what happens with life, hiccups happen left to right, and you just never know. So yeah, you just gotta be prepared for that though in any situation.
Yes.
That's how I go. That's how I go about it.
Right. What are you thinking, Tina?
I would say pretty much the same. When your plans are interrupted, it's almost like turbulence. You have to go with the flow. With COVID going on, the pandemic, one of the buzzwords that we heard was pivot. So that's something that I've learned to do despite, things not going the way they should go. I've learned to pivot and keep it moving.
Right. I love that because that's what you have to do in everything in your life, right? And that's not, so we say forget the plan. That's not just in the career path. That's even personally, as we strive to be parents, as we strive to be spouses, as we strive to be better siblings, right? You got to forget everything and focus on the goal. And that's what we mean by saying forget the plan, right? So tell me how in your life, when you had a plan and it didn't work, how did you feel initially? And then how were you able to then take it and say, you know what? It's about the goal, not this plan. Let me not stay attached to this plan.
Well, I'm gonna put it like this. I feel like at this stage in my life, I'm kind of built for it now because I had so many different plans in my life that went to different directions. So when COVID happened, I already had a setup to what to do because, if something doesn't go the correct way, nowadays I feel like you gotta look for the good in what's going on and see the positive of what's gonna happen because negative is gonna happen. You can't dwell on the negatives. So you gotta try to focus on the positive and different things. And I've been in situations where I had jobs where I was doing great. And then my job had to switch a position or my position got turned to a different place. So I had to get let go. And, I was like, you know what, whatever, this is what it is. And actually my last job, kind of because of COVID, I was doing great at my last job. I really didn't like it too much, but I'm like, it is what it is. But I've been wanting to leave that job for so long. And, and when COVID happened and, it happened to me, I'm like, you know what? I was upset for a second, but then I'm like, this is the plan right here. Just keep moving. Right now, I didn't really like this job. I didn't want to stay there. And then, I did what I had to do because of COVID happened. It opened up different opportunities. I looked into the good to it. And as you see right now, because Tajah, I wanted to move for so long and it gave me the opportunity to move and do that.
Yes.
So I looked for the good in it and, so that's basically it on that.
I can definitely understand. Go ahead and share your side of it, Tina. What is that thing that when you had that plan, right, you focused on it and it didn't quite go your way, right? How you had to pivot and focus on the goal. That way you create a new plan to reach the goal, right? Because that's what we mean by forget the plan, focus on the goal.
Absolutely. I mean, I would just say when, how we got here, the plan as far as my education. I had slotted out, I'm gonna take 4 years, 3 years, complete my doctorate in education, but I had a few hurdles that came along. And so those hurdles were really waves, like I went to Florida and those waves on the beach is something else. When they come at you, you can't do anything and it push you back. But I've learned to keep going forward despite, so with the education piece, there was a lot of trials and tribulations. Number one, I had a brother that I was very close to. I come from a family of 11, and the brother that I was close to, his diabetes got really bad to where he was bedridden and our whole family had to take care of him. And then he ended up passing away, which was very devastating for me at a critical time in my program for education. And so I also had a big brother that I loved dearly as well. He grieved so bad for my brother that passed away a year later, which was last year, March. He dropped dead and we could not get him to come back, resuscitate him. And the doctor said that he was, there was nothing wrong with him. So I believe that he died of a broken heart. And unfortunately, I lost one of my nephews. He was 19 years old. So all of this grief going on in the midst of me being in education, I found myself having to sit aside the education for a time to grieve, but I kept my eye on the prize. I knew that years ago in 1997, that I had a dream that I walked across the stage and graduated with my degree. And so that is the thing that keep me going, because I know that's a promise. And I don't give up on promises that God gives me. It's just a matter of moving forward and working with what you have to get to where you need to be. So I'm back on track in school. Nevertheless, I've had some other trials and things like that, but I'm keeping it moving, and I think that one of the biggest things is resilience. I've had some very serious things that has taken place in the midst of the grief. But I've learned to, just stay focused. I lean heavy on my relationship with God, staying connected to great, positive, strong women. I got a couple women that I call my covenant sisters. We could talk about anything and it doesn't leave the room. So just having them to be able to, talk to as a sounding board has been a great help for me.
I love that. And I think that's so true because, first of all, I think we all can account for being resilient, right? As African Americans, period. There are just trials and tribulations that we go through as women, as males, that just other races just do not compare their experience. They can't compare their experience to. And for that reason, we must be resilient. But before you can be resilient, right, you have to be aware that these things are going to happen. And I think, sometimes we live in a world that we want to shelter our kids from everything. We want to make them have a life that we didn't have, right? Mm-hmm. And a part of that is great, but so is a part of telling them where you came from and what you went through. So they know that everything isn't to be given to them just because we achieve, right? And we're successful. But this is hard. It is hard to be a parent and go to school and get let go of a job and look for new opportunities, but it is what you must do because it's just part of life. And no one has the right guide, right? No one has the master plan. What it is you put one foot in front of the other, you have your faith and you keep pushing. And so for me, I mean, like ZURI said, I have plenty of plans that went wrong, right? and then you don't even know you working on something else and that goes right and it becomes the new plan. And for me, that was school. My initial thing was school. I was going to school to be a lawyer. Everyone who knows me knows that. And when I took the LSAT, right, I didn't think about studying extra hard and putting in all the work because you know what? I was naturally gifted when it came to school and test, right? And I had just had my daughter. Oh no, this was before. So actually before I had Zara, and I went and took it, I didn't perform well. And it was the thing that crushed me. And because I had succeeded always, and here's a secret for people who don't think that strong friends or people who do well don't hurt. Yeah, they do. And what happened with me is because a loss or failure, had it been something familiar for me at that time, I hid it. I didn't tell anybody, right? And it crushed me because my thing was, what am I going to do now? Because I was so committed to the plan. This was supposed to happen. I was supposed to be done. And it just buried me. And so for 8 years, I didn't do anything, right? But work a basic job that I should have never probably been at. But because I was so down in the plan, right? I couldn't see another way. It was just get back to this. And now when I look and I reflect on that, I still would love to probably go to school and be a lawyer at some point as I'm in the second year of my PhD. But when I think about why I wanted to be a lawyer, why I wanted to be a judge, it gets me to helping people. Well, isn't that what I do as this mindset life coach, right? Yep. Isn't that what I do through Talk to Me Tuesday? So what happened? The goal is the same.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But I thought it meant for me to be a lawyer. And maybe that's still in some plan, but that wasn't the full vision for me. And I had to tap into that. And once I tapped into that, right, I could find my purpose. And so now what I want to segue that into is, Tina, you touched on it a little bit too. And this is not to align our faiths because I don't know what your faiths are, but I know we all believe in God and that's sufficient enough, right? No matter how we practice it. Yeah. But what I want to say and speak to the faith point is that in every book, it says he is the best of planners, right? Yeah. But again, if I go back to how we started this conversation, it talks about how parents or teachers or coaches will say, stick to the plan. Well, I'm the coach who's going to tell you, stick to the goal. Yes. He will work the plans out for you, right? Because whatever he stops, it was meant to stop, right? Yes. Whatever he blocks, it was meant to be blocked. So at the end of the day, don't get caught up in this route or this route and what's right or wrong. Focus on your goal, stay there, and do and go wherever he leads you. So I want to talk about your points in your life where you really had to hone in on faith and just tap into that so that you can, accomplish your goals.
Yes, definitely. It, like I said, it has been a journey. Faith has been my foundation, basically, like I said, I was raised by my mom. My father died when I was young, so she was a single mom raising us. That was tough. But what I saw is what was a model for me through her is what I have done in my life now. I heard good gospel music playing when I was growing up. I heard, phenomenal preachers, the TV just, every time I walk in her room, I heard gospel being preached and taught. So that gave me a great foundation. And actually, I have those attributes to this day. So Sunday mornings, my kids are listening to gospel music and they see me listening to TD Jakes or, and not only that, where there has been, the music and preachers and things like that, but my personal relationship with God, has been such an anchor for me. So I have always aligned myself and got close to God when I would have hardships, So with me being now, unfortunately, a single mom, something that I was not, that I did not want, that was a part of a plan being interrupted, so, but being able to say, this is where I am, being able to accept that, I'm single and have my 2 kids. I have 2 teenagers. My daughter's on her way to college, graduating senior year this year, and then I have a son, but just plugging into God so they know and they see me, having faith in God. So what they're doing is they're mimicking what I'm doing. So they talk about, I tell them, I said, my daughter, when she talk about things that happen in school, opportunities that has happened and being selected as a leader, I'm like, well, how did that happen? And my faith in God or God gave me favor. I said, exactly. So that's one of the things that I've always leaned on, because that's my foundation. And, when you have that as a foundation, you don't deviate from it. You may have your days where we're all human, but I just never left that, so when tough times came, I always went back to God. I need you to help me. So my time with God and my faith in God has been the anchor that has kept me going.
I love that. And it's so true. You have to have that foundation. How has that impacted you, ZURI?
See me, I have my like, I believe in God and everything, and like it led me to my faith is basically on a more spiritual level, and I do meditate and I do journaling and stuff, and which that actually helped me because when I done my journaling, I put things my different things I went through, and I look back at it and see how far I have come to where I'm at now. So that kind of motivates me back to like, I'm going the right direction. It might not be the path I wanted to go, but it's like you said, the goals. The goals are still the same, and I'm still getting to those goals and stuff. So like as I journal and stuff, I reflect back on all that, and I look back into it, and it keeps me going. You know what I mean? So like that puts my faith back into it. But anytime I feel like giving up, or I feel like this is tough right now, or this just happened, I look back, I'm like, realize how far you come. What was you
Right.
doing? Like what happened when you broke down during that point, and look where you at now. So yeah, so that basically that's one thing that keeps me going. So, like, yeah.
Right. I love that. And then, like, let's talk about how you ever had a plan and now, right, that you're full circle maybe on where you are on your journey, you look back and you're just thinking, like, why was that ever the plan? What was I thinking? Right? Or how did I think I was going to do that? And you can laugh at those moments, right? Because you're so appreciative of God, your faith, your spirituality getting you through that point to still achieve your goal. Because sometimes I know, especially with us as Black women, and I know men feel it too on a level of pressure that maybe you guys don't express so much. And I think that's something that definitely needs to change, right? We need to talk about these things with one another, especially in our marriages, because I think that's or relationships before they get to marriage, is some of the things that keep us from staying together are the ways we deal with failure, right?
Yeah.
Even though that's a part of the journey, right? That's how you get to the goal, because you got to go up and down. You got to face it. It's going to happen. And the more we prepare for it, like you said, ZURI, being ready for the fumble, that's what counts. I mean, expect that, right? Expect that things go wrong, but be ready for them going right, is what I say.
Yes.
Okay.
But to be
And
honest,
that's how you go ahead.
failures, they build you. You learn from them. You learn from your mistakes. If you don't have them, you're not gonna know. So once you get those failures and get past them, it makes you a stronger person at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Exactly. And it tells you whether you really want that goal, right?
Yeah.
That's my thing. If you really tap into that foundation, like you talked about, Tina, right? And you're really resilient and you pull through on those failures and those stumbles and those mishaps as you learn yourself, you'll really realize if you're true to that goal. And that's what happened. Most of us tap out when the plan doesn't work, right? It's like, oh, I guess I wasn't meant. I guess I'm not supposed. And it's like, you didn't go far enough to know. You didn't try hard enough. Because whatever is meant to be, whatever you see, that goal in your dream is real. But you gotta work. You gotta work hard, and sometimes you gotta go through several plans. And just don't stay dedicated to those, right? Like we said, forget that plan and just keep moving forward. So what are some of the goals that you have now attained that you know you had to forget that initial plan?
Mhm. Well, like I said, I just want to continue to focus on my schooling because I'm still in that process, but I'm so close to the finish line. And, the plan that I had, I wanted to do this before I turn 50, I'll be 50 in August. I'm not done yet, but I'm so close to being done. So, I had all these things lined up as far as education, as far as career, the things that I do as far as speaking and all of that kind of stuff. A lot of my those things is still the goal, but I'm in a process and I'm in a journey where kind of talking about like what ZURI was saying, that the obstacles that we have that we go through to get to them, the failures. I've had many failures and I've had many losses through the process, but I look back and I don't have regret, but I've developed perseverance. So I really stick with one of the scriptures that talks about the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but he that endureth to the end. So I'm not quoting it exactly how it is, but that's my guide when I look at school and I look at the milestones that I was able to accomplish in school in this doctoral program. You know what this journey looked like in your second year. It's not for those that are faint in heart, but you have to keep it moving. And I had a few failures, like at one point, my study was just not developed like it was supposed to be. And every year, we had this program set up where, every year you have to reach a certain point in the program. And it seemed like I kept getting put off. Like my doctoral chair was like, we're not ready yet. So that was kind of hitting me hard. It was very difficult to receive that because I'm like, well, I'm putting in the work. But when I really, really centered myself at one point and said, okay, I need to give this a little bit more thought. I need to do a little bit more research. I stopped looking at it as a failure. And I just began to say, you know what, let me just really take the time to put in the work that I need to put in to make my research acceptable. And once I did that, I'm a crybaby. So when I got the email from my professor or my chairman that your work is amazing and it's the best that I've seen, it's because I took the time to step back and really focus on what are they telling me? They're not trying to hold me behind. I'm holding myself behind because I'm so focused on trying to carry out this age thing where I want to graduate. But once I just kind of stop and I have like 7 months left. I needed that time because I didn't know other things that was going to go on in my life. And I'm focusing on helping my daughter finish school and working with my son with his education. So I really needed that time. Mm-hmm. And it's so important to look at the things. It has made me a better person. I see the different attributes. I see the different characteristic traits that I've developed and became stronger just being in that program. And having to wait is not a delay, but I just had to wait out the time. It's not delayed or anything of that nature, but I needed to wait out the time. And what it has done, it has helped me in other areas of my life. So it has spilled into my relationships. It has spilled into my career and the things that I want to do that I don't have to rush. But if I take my time and really learn what I need to learn, then I can produce better work. And I'm proud of the work that I'm producing.
What's funny what she's saying is that not only do we share the same last name, but we share similar goals because one of my goals was trying to go back to school. And right. I was faced with the whole thing with ageism. Like, I'm too old to go back, that I'm not gonna and I've been trying to go for a pretty long time. And, I had a lot of hiccups and stuff, with the whole work and stuff. And then how I'm gonna do this and how I'm gonna balance this stuff out. And, I kept pushing for it and I kept, I'm not gonna lie, there was a little time I was getting myself making excuses, but then I'm like, you know what? I could do this, I could get into this. And I'm actually starting school in 2 months right now, which I'm pretty happy about. And I'm like, you know what? I got to get this done. And, and you just got to keep doing it. You got to keep going and stuff. And I just my wife, she was a big help, big support system. And, and like I said, I was a little hesitant, but then I'm like, I could do this. And, and I took the steps to do it. And, but the path I originally wanted to go wasn't working. So I had to switch it up, and come back. And then right now, like I said, I'm starting school in 2 months. So
wonderful.
Yes.
And that's what I love the most, because you said the plan you had wasn't working. So it was time to, what you say, to pivot, right? Figure out a new plan or just start moving, and it's going to just shape itself so that she can go, right? And at first when you were talking, Zuri, I couldn't wait to jump in because you kept on saying, I'm trying to go. And I'm just like, trying, that's not a word we use. We going to figure it out. You need a coaching session, friend. So I'm so happy to hear that, you're going back to school because, no, honestly, That's how I felt. It wasn't for me still being young back then before I got my master's, but it was, I had an 8-year gap and I had nothing to say about that. Now in the midst, it wasn't like I was just twiddling my thumbs, right? I had a daughter, I was pregnant with a son, right? We got married. It was a great life, right? As you come into your own, but at the same time, I had to remember Tajah, right? Not mom, not wife, not employee, but Tajah. And what were Tajah's goals? And I think we have to focus more on that. We can't forget that person once we start taking on roles, right? Those become additions to us, right? Other layers of us that make us more and better. But what about that first, that foundation? That foundation is you. And when you want that foundation to be strong, you got to stick to your goals, because what happens is people who don't stick to their goals, right? Not the plans, but the goals, they often end up bitter. They often end up not fulfilled. And it starts to seep through in all their different relationships, because they haven't achieved what they wanted to achieve because they got bogged down in roles, and I think it's so important for us as a culture, when we have our friends, when we have our siblings, that we remind them, right? Not in a hurtful way, but we tell them, what did you want? Remember, just you, not the mom, not the husband, not the wife, you know what I mean? Not the dad. What did you want? And you can always go and do that. I had a lady in my class that is 80 years old, right? She's done everything she's wanted to do in life. But maybe that was the last thing on her goal list that she hadn't accomplished. And she's here now. She's not going to go work for someone else. You understand? But the point that she wanted to fulfill her goals. And I say that to anyone who's listening, stick to your goals. You can have them. You can achieve them. Don't worry about the plans. Don't worry about what's not working. Make the pivot. Be resilient, because as a culture, as a people, that is who we are. And we are all capable of getting our goals the way we want them. And just like Tina said and ZURI said, it may not be in that time, but sometimes that's a part of the journey. It's about the process, right? So it doesn't have to be fast. It doesn't have to be big, but you got to keep moving to achieve your goals. Thank you so much for this episode on Talk to Me Tuesday. It's been a great one. I'll see you next week.